Hello and welcome back to the Hardwood Hoops podcast. This is episode 43 and it is our NBA awards and NBA betting preview. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Ben Jones, but unfortunately this is our second time recording after I mucked up the first recording. So apologies for that, Ben, but how are you doing?
Yeah, we all love an outtake or a blooper, don't we? Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I've got some good videos saved now for a blooper reel for the end of the season that will make me look stupid, which is good. Like I said, plan for today, we're going to go through each award. We're going to do a little bit of a betting preview where I ask Ben what odds he likes and he doesn't for certain categories. But first of all, for the second time today, let's record our intro. Giannis has signed a new 5-year Supermax to stay in Milwaukee. I was slightly surprised by this. You were a little bit less surprised. What were your initial thoughts when you saw this? Were you happy for him and happy for the team as a whole? Because I know it's a small market team that has finally managed to keep a huge star.
Yeah, it's great. It's a win-win, I think. So far as the organisation's concerned, they've locked up a major star in a small market team, and they can now kick on and push on to sort of stretch for a championship. And if for whatever reason it fails with Giannis, they can trade him and get a ton back for him because of the contract he's on and the player he is. So as far as the organisation is concerned, they also look great because they've gotten to sign it early. When you flip it over the other side, Giannis looks incredible to sort of, especially all his fans, because he signed that early. He's getting paid a ton of money, and he knows that if he asks for it, he can be traded as well. And it's not even like he might not necessarily look bad because he looks so good at the moment that he signed this big contract with a small market team and he's not moving on anywhere. He's not chasing rings and stuff. People will kind of like, when he asks for a trade, will kind of be a bit like, well, yeah, I don't really blame you. The team's not going anywhere, or they've not treated you right, or they've messed it up. So he kind of might get away with it all scot-free. So for me, it's a win-win all round.
Yeah, and the fact he's so loyal and has seemed to be so loyal all the way through and kind of said he'll always resign, I think, who knows, he could see the whole 5-year deal out and sign another deal with them. There's not even, there's such a smaller part of me now that thinks that he would ever even ask for a trade. And maybe this is where he wants to be and he wants to see out at least this 5 years. And if not, I couldn't see him leaving in a 2-3 year window anyway. So if you're a Bucks fan, you've got minimum probably 3 seasons worth of Giannis. And best case, you've got 6 years and then he might resign again. So I think overall, from a Milwaukee fan base perspective, it's an incredible day for them. And for any small market team as well, if you're a fan of anyone who's not the big team, like even Mavs and Cavs, for example, they're teams that historically have had like issues attracting free agents. LeBron is only because of where he's from. So us as two fans for people that are in those markets, you just think, oh, right, now hopefully we can keep Luka for 5 years. And you might say, hopefully we can keep Sexton for 5 years. And I just think it's a bit of a bonus in a time where kind of superstars have had all the power in the NBA for a few years and kind of leave whenever they want, it seems like.
Yeah.
It's the opposite to Harden as well, isn't it? That's the other factor. Got all that going on in the background, and then Giannis comes out and does this. I just think it's a polar opposite and a superstar that's a little bit different to the rest.
Yeah, there's so much in sport at the moment, I think, in the modern day, like not just in the NBA, but across all sports. A lot of people keep saying there's no loyalty and people keep going to play with their friends or like they just chase the money. And that's the thing. I think, especially in the UK, like there's not a massive fierce loyalty to sort of where you're from or what sort of where you've been brought up, if you will, in terms of the NBA. The Bucks have brought him on and developed him, haven't they? And he's showing some loyalty, whereas currently at the moment, people tend to go either where their friends are so they can be happy while they play, or with a chance to win a championship. So it doesn't happen very often these days, so it's really nice to see.
No, it is. It does make next year's free agent pool a lot lesser, and I think teams like the Heat and Mavs who are really targeting Giannis next year are going to be more aggressive. So I think it could possibly speed up a Harden trade. It could possibly speed up a Bradley Beal trade. So I think this move is going to have huge knock-on effects, whilst a lot of people were waiting for Giannis for next summer, I think.
Yeah, be very interesting to see what teams do now. Whether they sort of make some trades and or this season in preparation to like knowing that Giannis isn't on the market next season, or are they still going to hold out and go for a different free agent?
Yeah, what I saw an interesting rumor that obviously Harden added the Bucks last week to his list. Now Giannis has re-signed, and there's their rumor that they're going to trade Middleton and Lopez and others now for Harden and go Holiday, Harden, Giannis, which I don't see happening, but it's funny timing. I think they can lead to a few blog posts that people will read. But yeah, congratulations to any Bucks fans that listen there. Congratulations to Giannis for securing probably generational wealth for him and his family. For a person that was selling sunglasses in Greece when he was playing amateur basketball, 6 years ago, to now being the joint highest paid player in the league. I think that's a very impressive feat for him to kind of conquer.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? He's done so well for himself, and it's all deserved as well. He is a hell of a player.
Yeah, he's got to work on that three ball.
Absolutely.
But actually not. Let's not work on it. Let's not make you any better.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be great for the
that's
rest
scary.
of us. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, let's move on to our next topic then, and the main one. We're going to go through all the NBA awards. What would you like to start with, Ben? Would you like to start at the top or bottom? So I've got Coach of the Year at the bottom or MVP at the top. You choose.
Let's save MVP till last, shall we?
Sounds good. Right, Coach of the Year then. So I'm not going to read out every option. I've got a few options that I'll give, a few odds, and then Ben can give his options, and I'll tell him what the odds are, and then we'll pick one each. So for me, a couple of options I had written down. I had Doc Rivers of 14-1 written down, because I think the 76ers could be really good, and if he can take a team that was more middle of the East and get them into the 1 or 2 seed, for example, I think that can be seen as a job well done. Rick Carlisle also at 14-1, the Mavs coach, just because me and you are quite high on the Mavs, and if they end up being the 3 seed, I think that would be another job well done. And if their offense continues to be like generationally good stats wise, I think it'd be hard to not give him a shout.
Yeah.
The other two I had were Lloyd Pierce at 16-1, who's the coach of the Hawks. Just because they could literally go from one of the worst teams to a good team, and that always looks quite good on your resume if you've made a team go up. And the last option I had written down was Monty Williams, who's the Suns coach, for similar reasons really to Lloyd Pierce. I think if they go from a 9-10 sort of team to a 4-5, for example, with still a lot of young players, I think that he could shine on that list. Is there any of those that you like, or were there some other names that you had that you could think of?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple on there that fit the bill, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
You obviously can't count out like your Nick Nurse or your Brad Stevens or whoever. The Nick Nurse he is the best coach out there at the moment, in my opinion.
Got to win a lot of games though,
but
to get this award.
Yeah, that's the problem. He now, he's gone from a championship team. He lost a couple of players to a middling team and did better than expected. For him to win Coach of the Year this year, I think he's going to have to do something really kind of outrageous almost. So I don't think it's going his way. I think it could go Monty Williams' way, just because the Suns could have a huge improvement this year, whether that's down to the coaching or the leadership that you see on the court now from Chris Paul. That could be enough to sort them out really and get them those extra wins and push them up the West. But the West is so competitive. Where are those wins going to come from? That's the issue I have. Mm-hmm. You could be looking at Eric Spoelstra again. The Heat massively overperformed compared to what everybody thought they were going to do last season, I would say.
Yeah. He's second favourite at the moment at 12-1.
Yeah, if they're able to do that again, there's no reason why he shouldn't get Coach of the Year at this point. But I have a feeling it could go to Steve Nash.
Oh.
He come in as a first-year coach with the roster he's got, the team he's assembled. There's no reason why they can't really climb up that leaderboard and do something special this season, and he get quite a bit of the credit for it. So,
you're going with Nash.
Yeah, I'm going to settle on Nash. Why not?
Cool. Well, Nash is 18-1, so you've got good odds. To be honest, apart from the top 2 or 3, a lot of the odds are quite similar in this category. You don't have many that are out there unless you want to bang a cheeky bet on Steve Clifford or Big Tibbs. Then yeah, their odds are all quite similar. So you go in Nash. I think very difficult. I do like the Monty Williams angle as well, but I agree the West is quite tough. So I'll be biased because of the later choice I've got. I'll go Rick Carlisle because I think if the 2 LA teams are 1 and 2, and the Mavs are a close third, then I think that job in the West could look very, very impressive. But I wouldn't rule out Ty Lue if the Clippers do manage to get the 1 seed. Then that could look really good. But I'll go with Rick Carlisle. I think 14-1.
Nice, good choice.
Yeah, I just think it could look quite good. And if the East is as close as we think, I think if 1 to 4 is really tight, and then you've got a team like the Mavs are in the West that's stuck with the Lakers and Clippers, I think it could look quite good because a lot of people have the Mavs in 3 and 4, but then when you hear a lot of national media, a lot of them are saying that they haven't got enough stars to compete in the West. So if you get your team to 3rd in the West, I think that looks quite good. But yeah, 2 good choices there, and I think 2 teams that could be at the top of their conferences. We'll have to see. If you have to put a bet on for you for Nash, 18-1. Let's go on to 6th man then. This one was very, very difficult. If I just read some of the options that I was considering again. So I was considering Lou Williams at 9-2 because it's Lou Williams. He loves the award.
Yeah.
The next one I had was Spencer Dinwiddie at 14-1. Well, the issue, my next 3, right, they are up for the award, but they could also start, and this is why I think the odds are higher. So you've got Spencer Dinwiddie at 14-1, Tyler Hero at 14-1, and Danilo Gallinari at 8-1. And at the moment, it looks like Hero and Dinwiddie could start, unless Butler and Dragic come in from Miami, obviously. But that is why I think I like Gallinari the most because of the odds. So he's 8-1, like I said, he's coming off the bench at the moment. And if they decide to bring him on the bench and finish games, then he'll count for the award. Whereas Tyler Hero, I think I could see him starting. And if Miami do trade for Harden, he'll definitely start for the Rockets, which would then mean you basically lost your bet. So I will go straight off the bat with Gallinari at 8-1 because I like the odds, I like the player. But this is a tricky category. There's not many people that, apart from Harrell and Williams, they've got good odds, mate. So what are your thoughts?
It's really tricky because as well, there's so many players on there that you think, oh yeah, they could be the 6th man, but then you look at the teams and the rosters, you think, oh, they could easily be slid into a starting lineup spot as well.
Yeah, but that was my issue still with Gallinari. He could easily still start. The only one who I'm committed that will come off the bench is Harrell and Jordan Clarkson in the odds.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bet on Jordan Clarkson, even though you may.
I've got him on my list as an outside bet.
Yeah, Dennis Schroeder, the problem is he's 3rd favourite. So he's an outside bet, but with not very good odds.
Yeah.
Whereas Dennis Schroeder, for me, I don't see why he wouldn't start point guard for the Lakers. So he's not going to be 6th man if he starts point guard.
No.
And I think Spencer Dinwiddie could start at the 2, unless they start Levert. So again, he's not going to be a 6th man. But yeah, what are the names then? Obviously, Jordan Clarkson being one. What other names did you have in your options?
Yeah, I had Clarkson and Harrell.
I think Montrez is guaranteed to come off the bench, right? So that's a good start. You've at least got that ticked off.
Yeah, at least he's in that box. I didn't know whether Davis Bertans was going to be coming off the bench for the Wizards or not.
Yeah, I think he's going to start because I think if he was off the bench, his odds would be a lot lower. He's 16-1 at the moment on what I'm looking at, and that's quite high for a player like can score as many points as him. So I think he'd probably start at the 4 for the Wizards.
I still can't rule Harrell and Williams out. Harrell and Williams out, even though they because I think it helps that their name's associated with 6th man now. So people, I think, are quite lazy with this one and just like, oh, just Lou Williams, fine. Just sort of throw the vote away almost.
Yeah, and the Clippers almost deliberately don't start him just so he can be a 6th man.
Yeah.
That's why he's the favourite, and he's quite short price, well, not short price, but he's a lot shorter than most of the options we've already discussed. Another player who plays for the Clippers was Serge Ibaka. A lot of people think they'll still start Zubac and that Ibaka will come off the bench. And I think if Ibaka comes off the bench, he'd be a cool option for sixth man because I think he'll have a huge impact on the team at least.
Yeah, it's definitely another good option, isn't it? I do like Tyler Hero as well as a sixth man option. If he keeps improving the way he does, he could be a brilliant sixth man shout.
And then you think they'll be starting Dragic, Jimmy, Duncan Robinson as the 1 through 3 then if Hero's off the bench.
Yeah. Because he'll lead that second unit in the scoring, and they want Duncan Robinson in the starting lineup for spreading the floor so Jimmy and Bam can work inside. So I'm going to go with Tyler Hero. Why not? I've talked myself into it.
Nice. I'll stick with Danilo Gallinari. But I think it might sprinkle a little bit on a backer on the side. Cool. All right, let's move on to the next one then. Everyone's favourite award, Defensive Player of the Year. This one, the odds are a lot shorter. And I've kind of gone with a lot of the favourites in my options. So if I just run through the options I have written down. So what I didn't have written down was Rudy Gobert. So he's in the top of the betting with Anthony Davis. And then Giannis and Bam closely followed behind. They're kind of the top 4. But for me, the ones I like the most were Anthony Davis, Giannis, Bam. And then I like Ben Simmons, an outsider at 14-1. Because his defensive numbers are almost better than anyone's in terms of guarding non-bigs. It's harder for someone who guards point guards and in small forwards a bit more because they get less blocks. If you notice, a lot of people that win Defensive Player of the Year have a lot of blocks in their stat line, which help, which is probably why Bam, Giannis, Davis, and Gobert are the top 4. But I like Simmons as an outsider. If I had to pick one, I think Giannis will lose his MVP. He won't win 3 in a row, but I think he will win Defensive Player of the Year. So I would go with Giannis at 4-1 odds, I think. Who were you considering and why? And then shout us out with your pick after.
Again, the Lou Williams of this award is Rudy Gobert, isn't it? You kind of always consider him just because he is such a defensive presence. And when he is on form, the Jazz are a defensive juggernaut. But I think Giannis is going to have to do more defensively this year, which could help him sort of put himself forward in this award. And I think you're right. Because he has to do that, he might suffer on the other end of things and lose to sort of an MVP vote here and there. I like Bam as a defensive option. Now they don't have Crowder and stuff to help him out. He's going to have to do a lot more. And
I agree. Good odds as well.
Yeah, with the Heat getting the limelight they got from last season, I think he's going to be talked about a lot more. So it's more likely he'll get a few votes here and there. So I really like your Ben Simmons shout. I think that's great. He is probably
14-1 as well.
Defensive player in the league at the moment, probably. But just like you said, because he's guarding smaller guards, it doesn't really get spoken about. So for me, it's between Bam and Ben.
Go with the namesake.
One of the Bs. And I feel like as well, I've already picked a Heat player, so let's go somewhere else. And I'm going to pick Ben Simmons.
Nice. It's good odds. Very good odds. I was going to say, you can't be purely a Heat podcast. Don't want to take over Miami Heat UK's place in the market.
No.
I like Ben Simmons as an outsider, but I will stick with my Giannis shout in kind of the thought process. He won't get MVP, but he'll still be so good he has to win something.
Yeah.
Let's move on to most improved then, the hardest award of them all to pick, which is why I'm going to let you start. Talk about the options you're considering. Then I'll talk about mine and we can make a pick.
Okay, so a couple of names I had were Tyler Hero, obviously, who I've spoken about. I think, like I said, if he keeps improving the way he did last season, he is going to be verging on being a star player already. Michael Porter Jr. was another option I came up with.
Good one.
For me, he has to improve defensively and have more confidence in what he's doing on the court and knowing where he should be in the plays. If he can do those simple things, I think the scoring will take care of itself because he is a great scorer. And my other one, which this, for me, I think is my favourite, I think he's probably going to get it, is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Nice.
Very closely watched last season for this award. And now he is going to be sort of the main point guard on that Oklahoma team. He could put up some ridiculous numbers this season. And that's why I think he's going to get this award.
Nice, good pick there. Shea Gilgeous is 16-1. So another one a little bit outside their odds, but like I said, most improved player. All the odds are pretty good because it's nearly impossible to pick so early on. So if I run through a couple of my options, then I had Porter Jr. on there like you did. He's 30-1, a bit of an outsider. I had DeAndre Ayton at 14-1 as an option because I think Chris Paul could really get him involved, and if he's a key member of that team, and he kind of not that he overtakes Booker, but Booker will share the ball a bit more with Paul, whereas Ayton I think will still get those key moments, key minutes in the paint, and I think he'll potentially score more with Chris Paul setting him up. So I liked Ayton. My favourite two were Zion at 25-1. And Jamal Murray at 10-1. The issue with Murray is, I don't know if people will look at how good he was in the bubble and kind of forget that he wasn't like that in the regular season. And they'll just see him play well again this season. Be like, oh, he was already great in the bubble last year, though, so he hasn't improved that much. When really, he was good in the bubble for like 3 weeks. Like, amazing. But in the regular season, he wasn't that level. So I think he could maybe get looked upon harshly on that sense. So he'd be my second favourite, and I'm going to pick Zion. I love Zion. Looked good in pre-season. Definitely a bit of narrative to these awards, and he's one of the most famous players in the NBA already after one season. And I think he'd get a little bit of media bias on that front. So I think I'll go with Zion, but the worry is if he gets injured again. So, but that's the same worry I think with Porter Jr. So I'll stick with Zion. I think at 25-1.
Nice.
Cool. Let's go on to another, probably the second hardest award to pick. Rookie of the Year. Normally we have a standout candidate for this, and for me, we don't. Once again, do you want to shoot us off? Go first.
Yeah, you're kind of instantly drawn to the top picks, aren't you? I'm looking at, so I'll go through sort of the top 4 or 5. Anthony Edwards, I don't think is going to get it. There's somebody on the Timberwolves playing his position already. They realistically want to be pushing for playoffs at least. So he's probably not going to get that much of a look in unless he is really, really good, in which case he probably will get the award. But I can't see him having that much of an impact on this team.
I think the team's going to be worse as well than everyone thinks. They're so bad defensively in the West, which is so strong. I don't think they'll win enough games. Yeah.
So that's him out of the running order for me. James Wiseman, if he can fill that centre role quickly and get into this Warrior system, I think he could do really well. But I don't think he's going to put up enough numbers to win Rookie of the Year. I think he could be a really good role player in that team, but there's no way he's going to stand out as a candidate for this award, in my opinion, especially as a centre.
I agree.
On to the Hornets with LaMelo Ball. Now, this, for me, if they play him and start him at point guard, potentially is one of the standouts for this award. We've seen over limited minutes already in the sort of pre-season games. He's played quite well. The assists are there. I've seen warm-up footage. His shot's looking good. If he can sort of ease his way into this Hornets lineup and he's got that running mate alongside him, he could do really, really well here. So he is one of my favourites at this point. Patrick Williams on the Bulls. Again, another one of these players that I don't know how much of a look in he's going to get, even though I know he's a top 4 pick. I don't know how much time he's going to get on the Bulls team. And then Isaac Okoro has been playing unbelievably well in this preseason. Looks really, really good. But again, Cavs is such a small market team. Even if he's playing well, is he going to get much publicity? Are people going to could take notice of him. Probably not. So
He's so good
realistically,
as well,
especially
isn't he?
yeah,
Defensively, I think that's the problem though. It's not as flashy as it is someone who's good offensively when you look at trying to win an award.
yeah, exactly. So for me, my favourite for this award is LaMelo Ball.
Interesting. So in terms of the odds, you've got Wiseman and LaMelo Ball. They're basically both joint favourites. They were also joint favourites with Anthony Edwards, but after the first 2 preseason games, the bookies have put him out a little bit. So he's third favourite. Mr. Obi Toppin for the Knicks is fourth favourite. And that is a very big market. And there's a chance that the way Mitchell Robinson's been playing in preseason, which is not good, that Toppin could play a lot more than maybe I thought, maybe some Knicks fans thought. And if they actually start him, which they're not at the moment, if they actually do start him eventually, just say we're 10 games in and they start to play him, I think he could look good. But again, he's probably not going to start the season as one of your 5. And historically speaking, you have to be playing probably 30 minutes a game and starting to be Rookie of the Year. That's just the way it always works. So I've kind of had a look at that, and I put LaMelo Ball at 4-1 as one of my options. I've got Denny Advia from the Wizards, who's looked really good, 16-1. My issue is he might not also start, but I think there's a chance he could start at the 3 for them. So that's a bit of a riskier pick because at the moment it's not a guaranteed starter, but he's 16-1. Yeah. And then I've got 2 Magic players, funnily enough. But Cole Anthony at 50-1, who might start in the backcourt with Markelle Fultz. And I think 50-1 for a player who's score first guard and might start is good odds. So I like that. And the other one, 50-1, is just because a bit of a shout out to a former guest of ours, James Plowright, is Chuma Okeke, who they drafted last year, but he tore his ACL. He's more of a wing, but he's kind of been in an NBA program for a year. He's kind of learned how it is to play in the NBA from afar. He's obviously gone to all the road games. He's been to the training camps and got injured, and he's a bit more acclimatized. He's also 50-1. So I like those 2 odds at 50-1, but I don't know if I can suggest that 50-1 is my best bet. So I'm going to have to lean. I'm going to go with my boy Denny. I like 16-1. Denny Advia, 16-1 with the Wizards, especially if Beal gets traded to the Mavs, which is a dream of mine that probably will never happen. But yeah, I like Denny, but I will also be putting a cheeky £10 on at 50-1 for our boy Cole Anthony because I think 500 quid return is tasty.
It's difficult to turn down, isn't it?
Yeah, I just don't think Halliburton or Hayes will play enough. I don't know, it's hard. Hayes might start on the point guard, but we'll see. But I agree with you. Wiseman could easily be a 6th or 7th man for them. They might start Looney and kind of play him off the bench. And Anthony Edwards, again, could also end up being like a 6th, 7th man. Or if he starts, he might not get the ball enough. So, yeah, I agree that LaMelo Ball is probably the safest of the top options. But I'll go with the outsider in Denny Advia. Cool. Let's finish on the big one then. MVP. I just want slightly differently. I'll read out the odds for the top 10, let's say. And then we'll go through your options and then my options. So the favourite for the award at the moment at 4-1 is Luka Doncic. Second favourite is for a 3-peat, Mr. Giannis, who just signed for all the money in the world. Joint second favourite is Steph Curry at 5-1. And then we have Anthony Davis at 8-1, James Harden at 10-1, who needs to lose a bit of weight rapidly. LeBron James at 10-1, Kevin Durant at 12-1, Lillard at 16-1, and Jason Tatum also at 16-1. And then the odds start to drop off a bit when we get to Kawhi, Westbrook, and Beal and players like that. But so they're the top players. Normally, you have to be a top seed, unless you're Russell Westbrook back in the old days. You have to be a top seed to win this award. So I had some names written down. I had Luka at 4-1, who's the favourite, and obviously my joint favourite player in the NBA. My other favourite player in the NBA, Kevin Durant, is at 12-1, and that's hard to look past because if they're as good as they can be, I don't care how good you think Kyrie Irving is, Durant will be the leader on that team. He'll score more, he'll win them more games, and he might play more because we know Kyrie has a problem with knee injuries. Curry at 5-1 is just a great option because, like we said in our other podcast, if the Warriors do well, it's because he scores a lot of points, and if you score a lot of points, you kind of do well in the awards. But the issue with the Warriors is they could be the 6th seed, and you're not going to win an MVP for a 6th seed. And then my outsider that I love was Damian Lillard. A lot of people think they could finish 3rd or 4th, them or the Mavs. And I think if them or the Mavs finish 3rd or 4th and Lillard or Luka is averaging 30 points a game, maybe 10 assists or 8 assists for Lillard. I think that looks quite good. So they're my 4 options. I wanted to put AD in there, but I think him and LeBron just kind of cancel each other out a little bit. So I didn't quite put them in. Who are the options that you like? And then we'll both make a pick.
Yeah, I think you're right with KD and LeBron. They're both so good, and they kind of put up similar numbers that you can't really choose.
Yeah, it's hard to shine, isn't it?
Yeah, so you end up default going to someone else, even if like it should have gone to one of those two, if you get me.
Yeah.
So I've kind of settled on the same as you, really. Luka and Giannis are like my 2 favourites, I think, for this award at the moment, with Anthony Davis and LeBron sat behind them, and then in the sort of extended pack behind them, it's Steph, Harden, Tatum, and I like that Lillard shout as well.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, actually. In our preview podcast, you had the Celtics, the 1 seed, and the Lakers were both our 1 seed. So if the Lakers are the 1 seed, AD and LeBron kind of take away votes from each other, sorry. Don't you think that if the Celtics were the 1 seed, that your boy Jason Tatum, who will clearly be the highest scorer, maybe the best defender, maybe the best, have the most assists, don't you think that at his odds, he's a great shout if you're someone that thinks the Celtics could win the whole East?
Yes, definitely. The way Tatum was playing the second half of the season he was easily an MVP candidate if he'd done that all season long, and now's his chance.
He's grown 2 inches as well, by the way, apparently.
Jesus.
Yeah, Brad Stevens said Tatum's grown 2 inches. I think he's 6'10" now.
That's scary.
Yeah, I know, that is scary. I wish I could grow 2 inches. Yeah, apparently, he's 6. Yeah, apparently, he reckons he's grown 1.5 inches to 2 inches.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it doesn't affect like his ball handling and stuff.
True.
Yeah.
Or Brad Stevens is just lying to the media. He hasn't grown 2 inches.
He's just run out of things to say. So, by the way, Tatum's grown 2 inches. It's really difficult to. Well, like I said, I think Giannis will be doing a lot more defensively, so probably won't be seen as an MVP candidate as much this season. So I think
Luka's 3 in a row, isn't it, as well?
Yeah,
it really hardly ever gets done.
Luka is my favourite for this award as well. Yeah, let's go with Luka Doncic. As long as he stays fit and healthy, he'll probably get this award, especially early in the season, having to do everything without Porzingis there. Yeah,
especially if they win a couple of their marquee matchups. Like they've got the Suns, Lakers, and Clippers in their first 3 games. So if they go and win against the Suns and the Clippers, for example, on national TV, I think it could just give him a bit of a head start. And like you said, he'll probably score 30, 40 points a game to beat those sort of teams.
Yeah.
This is one of the awards I've actually already bet on in real life. And I bet on the 4 people I said about. Luka, Curry, Durant, and Lillard. Just because the odds were too high for Durant and Lillard, I think they need to be shorter. So I went for the value. If I had to pick one to shout, I agree with you. I think Luka is the one. He was 3rd in MVP voting last year, I believe, behind LeBron and obviously Giannis. I think AD was 4th. And he's 22. So I think he can go up again another level. And if the team are better defensively, they'll win more games and it'll look better that he scores points late on. Whereas last year, they were kind of letting teams come back late on. And it was almost like, oh, why didn't Luka win them the game? And really, it's because he's having to do a lot on both ends and teams are targeting him and a bit of bad luck and stuff in the 4th quarter. Whereas if they're better in that area, which they should be, I think it can help them in terms of like how they're seen in the media. And I think Luka will be seen a bit better if they win more close games. So I'll go with Luka. But yeah, definitely don't write Durant out at 12-1, especially the way he's looked in pre-season so far. Cool. We only had one award the same then. Even though, to be honest, I think most improved in Rookie of the Year is almost like throwing a dartboard and kind of hoping it sticks, I think.
Yeah, it does seem that way some years.
Yeah, whereas we haven't got the obvious. In last year, even though he didn't win it, Zion before the season was your obvious answer. Luca the year before was your obvious answer, whereas now, not quite as obvious. Um, cool. Well, that's our awards then. Let's talk a little bit about a betting preview. Let's start with an easy one then. Championship odds, Ben. I want to throw you some different odds. I know you could say, oh, certain teams might not actually win, but you've got to kind of look at the value a little bit. But first of all, I wanted to mention a team that we both think probably will win the title again. The Lakers. You can get them at 11-4. My question to you is, what is the chance that those odds are actually going to get better? So technically worse, so higher, but better for us to bet on. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll come out and win games early again, and the odds will just get shorter and shorter. So why should people not be betting 11-4 now for the Lakers to win, or do you think they should be betting 11-4 for Lakers to win?
I think, yeah, if you think the Lakers are going to win it all, get your bets on now, basically, because if they do what they did last season and get out that early lead and sit there, now's the time that you're going to get your money's worth, essentially.
I agree.
And then if for whatever reason, they don't get off to a good start, or they sort of end up middle of the run, you can still, I don't know, if you still
the odds will get better
think,
then,
somehow think they're going to win, you could maybe put a second bet on. But I would, if you think they're going to win it all, I would, go for it now.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to get any better. So they're the favourites then. So I'll give you a couple of others and see if there's any you think of value. So we have the Brooklyn Nets at second favourite, 11-2. They were fourth favourites and they've been bet right in second favourites now. We have the Clippers at 6-1, third favourites. The Bucks at fourth favourite, 13-2. The Celtics then are fifth favourite at 12-1. And then we have the Heat 16-1, Nuggets 20-1, Warriors 20-1, 76ers 20-1, Raptors 20-1, and then the Mavericks down at 26-1. Any of those teams you kind of like those odds, especially like from the East, for example, because they won't have to play the Lakers till right at the end, or maybe another West team that you think good value.
Can you go through what West odds have you got again? Because that's so competitive, surely the odds are quite good if you're looking at another West team, or are they bad
they are,
because they're all so strong?
So the East is better because it's harder to predict, but the problem is if you go past the Lakers and Clippers, you do get good odds. So for the West, for the Nuggets, you get 20-1. For the Warriors, 20-1. The Mavs, 26-1. The Rockets, 40-1. The Trailblazers, 40-1. And the Suns, 80-1.
It's really tricky because as well, we've both predicted that the Lakers and the Clippers are going to be so many games ahead in the West that don't know.
Yeah, I've got the Mavs bet on personally for bias reasons and the fact I think they're going to be the third or fourth team. And the fact they were 30-1 when I bet on them, they're now 26-1. I just thought that for me, I could easily see them beating the Clippers in a series if Porzingis is fit. And the Clippers are 6-1, the Mavs are 26-1. So I took the good odds. But you love the Celtics and you're quite fond of the Heat as well. So what are your thoughts on the Celtics 12-1 and the Heat 16-1? Do you like either of those two? Because obviously those teams don't have to play the Lakers until the end.
For me, it would be the Celtics because I do think they're going to win the East at the moment. That's probably where I put my money, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I do like those. I think Trailblazers as well at 40-1. If you are one of these people that thinks they'll be the third best team, which there are some, I know me and you are quite high on the Nuggets and the Mavs, but if you do like the Trailblazers, I think take them at 40-1 now because if they come out with a good start, then you're not going to get 40-1 again.
Yeah.
Cool. So another one I wanted to ask you about was the East odds itself. So just in case there is an injury to a Tatum or Kemba has another kind of struggling year, the 76ers at 9-1 and the Heat at 7-1 as outsiders behind the Nets, Bucks and Celtics. Could you see any of those teams doing well with those odds? Or you just think that the East is kind of a top three heavy kind of conference now?
Yeah, for me, the Raptors have sort of slipped back, losing a couple of pieces this season. Yeah, the 76ers could be a nice little runner.
Yeah.
But for me, yeah, your top teams
teams are too good.
Yeah, it's between those. So your Boston, your Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and Heat are kind of just a little bit of a step above. If I was going to take a punt and sort of go for a slight outsider, it'd be the 76ers.
Yeah, I agree. I think I quite like the Celtics on that one at 9-2 because you don't need them to beat the Lakers in the finals. You just need them to be better than the Bucks and Nets. And the Nets, anything could happen, and the Bucks we've seen fail before. So I quite like the Celtics at 9-2. And again, 76ers at 9-1 with those two players. If it clicks with Doc Rivers and the new shooters around them, I think that they could be really good. Cool. Let's move away from conference and championship winners then and talk about make the playoffs. You were quite high and low on the Hawks. They're obviously a team that weren't in the playoffs last year, so they have slightly better odds. What is your opinion on the Hawks? There's two options. They're basically the same odds. You can either bet them to make the playoffs, or you can make them to bet them to win over 32 games at the moment. That's their under/over. Where would you be leaning? Would you be leaning for the same odds just to win 32 games, or would you think they can definitely make the playoffs and you'd rather do that, make the playoff bet? Because apparently it does include the play-in. So if they were finished 9th and they made the playoffs then via the play-in, you would still win your bet. But you'd have to wait for the play-in tournament to be finished, obviously, to see if you want that bet. But I know you're quite high on the Hawks, so I thought I would ask.
Yeah, where do you think 32 games would put them in terms of a playoff race? I can't remember what the games were last season.
Well, there's obviously less games this year, so 72 games. Let's compare it with another team. So, for example, in the Eastern Conference, a team that's normally up there, the Pacers, their over/under is 38. So I think, had the Hawks higher than the Pacers. So this is predicting the Pacers win 6 more games. So you could bet the Hawks over 32 because you're quite high. And another bet, you could actually bet the Pacers under because you think the Pacers are going to win less games. And a team like the Heat, for example, they're 44, so they're 10 wins ahead. So they're almost saying that the Heat are in a different league to the Hawks in the East. So that's why I kind of picked out the Hawks. I know you like them to make the playoffs, and they're going to have to win over 32 games to finish in the top 8 for sure.
Yeah, it's really... Yeah, because the Magic last season got the 8th spot with 33 wins.
Yeah, well, I suppose the season was finished early, so yeah, with similar amount of games.
Yeah. So you'd probably
if they won 33, you'd win that bet, for example.
Yeah, you'd probably go with the 32 games, I think.
Yeah, give you that bit of a buffer.
Yeah.
Are there any teams that you made the playoffs last year that you see dropping out? We can see if they're worthwhile betting. Because I know, for example, the Wizards are evens to not make the playoffs. And normally they'd be well under that. So you could bet £20 and get £40 back for the Wizards not to make it. Any teams that you think that made it last year that you think could drop out?
I think I had the Magic dropping out, and the Pacers the Pacers might have as well, or on the brink of dropping out.
Yeah, so the Pacers are actually 7-4, so that's really good odds to drop out. So if you think the Pacers could drop out, then they are really good value. So that's another good one. And then I had the Jazz right at the bottom of the West. And the Jazz are 10-3, which is really good odds as well. And I think they'll still make it. But when you're getting offered 10-3, and there's probably 4 or 5 teams that are all going to fight for the same spot, I quite like the 10-3. But you're saying that you think the Pacers at 7-5 could be quite a good odd then, because you think there's a chance they might fall below the Wizards and Hawks.
Yeah, I think there is this season. Teams seem to be really regrouping and becoming a bit more competitive, even in the East. So I think it's getting really, really tricky. Someone's got to fall out. So
yeah, I agree. What about division bet? Can we bet the Knicks for 151 to beat the Nets, Celtics, 76ers, and Raptors and win their division? Or are we throwing away money there?
Not. Chuck that straight in the bin.
You don't like that one?
Nah. Weird.
Yeah, true. Cool. Another one I want to ask you about as well is the Houston Rockets. So if they trade James Harden, we're not sure what packages they're going to get back. Their win total at the moment is 35.5. So they'd have to win 36 games to go over or 35 games to go under. If they trade Harden, can you see them winning 36 games? Or do you think if they trade Harden, basically under 36 is a lock and that's a bet that people should be looking at?
Depends what they get back, doesn't it? It's so difficult to tell. They could get another superstar back. It's really difficult to tell with this Houston team. I think in my head, well, they've only got Harden left. They trade him. Whatever they get back, it's not going to be as good. Therefore, they're not going to do very well as a team because it's all Harden and nothing. But since they've made moves this offseason, they've got John Wall and they've got DeMarcus Cousins. They've still got Eric Gordon and a few bits left over. It's not an awful team. With Harden, I think it's enough to get them in the playoffs. Without him, who knows? But I think I only had them in the 8th spot, even with Harden. It's so tricky to tell.
They're going to be 8. You're probably looking at under 36 wins, aren't you, then, to be honest?
More than likely, yeah. I don't know what it was last season. But let's have a look. 8th last season, Trailblazer 35, and then team above that's 43. So
yeah, and they've got the Warriors coming back in this year as well. Don't forget.
Yeah.
So it seems like under 36 is an option for you.
I think so. Yeah, let's go with that.
Cool. And then 2 other teams I wanted to ask you about for their win total. Before I tell you what the number is, let's see how good you are at predicting. How many wins maximum could you see the Knicks and the Thunder getting each?
Ooh.
Bearing in mind, we used the Hawks as an example that they were predicted for 33 and 36 for the Rockets as the under-over. Where do you think the Thunder and Knicks under-over should be sitting at? Do you think it's unbelievable? Do you think they'll win 20 games? Or
20 sounds like a nice place for it to be. I think they'll be just south of 20 games, personally. I think they're going to be winning
in the late teens.
Yeah, 15 to 20 games this season, the pair of them.
Well, so the Knicks under-over is 21.5, meaning they'd have to win 22 or more to get the over. The Thunder is 20.5, so they'd have to win 21 and over. So if you like both to go under 20, then that would be the under for both bets. And you can actually do a bet where they both have 20 or less wins at 2-1, well, nearly 3-1, which is really good value because we both think they're going to be last in each conference. So I think that could be a good bet to go and attack if people want to look at some over-unders.
That's very bold, whoever's making that for the Knicks, because they only won 21 games last season. They think they've improved that much that they're going to win the same more in a short season. I think they're slightly off pace.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's sort of an angle that you can kind of look at, can't you, and try and exploit it, I think, because I think they've set that number a little bit too high.
Yeah.
Another one you can bet is who has the worst record overall. The Thunder are favourites for that, with the Cavs, Knicks, and Pistons kind of coming up next. Is there an argument to say that we could bet on the Pistons at 3-1 to have the worst record in the NBA? And maybe the Knicks could just win a couple more than them. And OKC, no matter what they're trying to do, they've still got Shai Gilgeous, they've still got Horford, they've still got Big Lou Dort. Could they win a couple more games than the Pistons and put the Pistons down the bottom, you think?
Yeah, there's definitely that opportunity. Pistons could so easily come bottom of the pile this year, even with Blake and Derrick Rose. What else are they
trade Blake as well?
Yeah,
because Blake Griffin's a free agent next year. If he opts out, and I think that they could kind of try and cash that in and trade him now, I would say. Personally, that'd be my opinion on it.
Yeah, and fully sort of invest in the tank option. go for the draft this year. Because people want him. People will want Derek Rose as well.
Yeah, the Bulls will take Rose for another time. Why not?
Yeah, definitely.
Get it going. Cool. Well, I thought, why not, whilst we're here, ask about our own teams as well. So we'll do the under/over for both teams. See what your thoughts are. So Cleveland Cavaliers' number is set at 22.5. So the over would be if they win 23, or if they win 22, that would be the under. Do the Cavs win 23 plus games, or you think they would be on the under? What are your thoughts as a Cavs fan? That's a couple of games more than the Knicks, for example. I know we like them more than the Knicks, but are they going to be even that much higher than the Knicks? Do you think over as a confident fan?
This is so because that number, I reckon they've got that like
bang on,
spot on. Yeah. I'm going to say under because they will trade away Kevin Love. I think Drummond's going to end up staying. He seems really comfortable in this preseason. Seems to have really bought into the team, and they've all sort of gathered around each other.
Yeah.
But I still think, although he's a bit older, he's a big contributor to this team. And when he goes, that's going to be some tough shoes to fill straight away. And that's where they could have maybe picked up those couple of wins that puts them over. Without him, I think they go just under.
Yeah, I would agree. That's similar to the Harden argument that trade can make them worse. Cool. So let's go next on to the Mavs then. So the Mavs, the number is 42.5. So they'd have to win 43 to go over, or 42 is the under. Just to compare them, that is 2 less wins than the Nuggets total. And that is a whole 7 wins less than the Clippers total. Do you think the Mavs can go over and get 43 wins, or you like them around the 40 to 42 mark and hit just the under?
They can go over, definitely.
Yeah,
I think it should be aiming to as well.
Yeah, I agree. Because if we say we both have the Lakers at the top, the Lakers and Clippers are both on 48.5. Which, by the way, I think I'd be betting the over on the Lakers at 48.5 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think if just say the Lakers win 50 games at a minimum, I think the Mavs will be within 8 games of them to hit the over.
Yeah, I think it's realistic. Definitely realistic.
Definitely. Cool. All right. Well, out of all the ones we've spoken about, then, what is your favourite bet of the show? Is it your Tyler Hero for sick man at 14-1, or do you like your Boston Celtics at 12-1 to win the whole thing? What's been your best bet that we've spoken about?
Yeah, I think it's the Tyler Hero. I don't think many people are talking about him. I think we've seen a real sort of improvement and blossom from him in the bubble, and I think that's only going to continue this season. And it's not bad odds either.
No, I had him as third on my little option, so 14-1 is good for that. So I really like the Tyler Hero one as well. My favourite one would be Zion at 25-1 for most improved. We've said it so many times, most improved is such a random award. But if I've got a player that the media and fans just love, even maybe too much, in Zion, and he's 25-1, and he can improve a lot because it's not like he had the best season last year. He didn't even play. So it's going to be easy for him to improve.
Yeah.
And if they finish in the play-in tournament, for example, and he plays most of the season, then I think that could look good in the media. So yeah, I like the Tyler Hero for sixth man and the Zion for most improved. I think they're my favourites. And my least favourite bet would be LaMelo at 4-1, because even though I agree with you, he could start, he could also have one of the worst 3-point shooting percentages and the most turnovers. So that would be the one I'm most scared about kind of spending my money on. Would your thought process be the same?
Yeah, it is a risky one, but again, the Rookie of the Year thing is so tough to beat.
Tough award. Tough award.
I don't know who else you would put your money on instead.
Yeah, I think that's a sort of stay away. You don't have to bet on everything, and that's one I think that you could people could be persuaded to stay away from, I think.
Definitely.
Cool. All right. Well, that is the end of our awards show. We'll see how we do at the end of the season. Save our predictions. We'll tweet them out like we will with our East and West before the season starts. Kind of see where we lie at the end of the year. Our next podcast we bring out will be a little bit of a preview for opening night and for the Christmas Day games, and then we're going to get straight into our regular season pods the week after that, and kind of come with 2 pods a week if we can, all at the same time. So exciting times, Ben.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really good season. Hopefully, we can do everything that we're planning.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're going to plan some sort of giveaway again now the new season starts. Um, and then obviously come playoff time at the end of the year, Ben will get one of his famous brackets out again. So win-win.
Love a bracket.
Cool. Right, there we go then. Remember to follow us at _Hardwood Hoops on Twitter. We always like to hear from you guys, kind of any ideas for the show or opinions on what we've said. I'm sure when we put our who's going to win each award and who's going to finish 1 to 15 in the East and West, we'll get a lot of response. So yeah, please make sure you comment, even if you disagree with everything we've said. That's almost more fun for us to receive people disagreeing with us than agreeing with us, I think.
Oh yeah, everybody loves a little debate, don't they?
Definitely. Cool. All right. Well, remember to go follow us then. We'll speak to you again next time. Thanks again, as always, mate, for joining me.
Absolute pleasure. Speak to you soon.